Hello, Narnach here. Welcome to the start of a brand new series for Path of Exile. We're playing on patch 2.5 in the Breach League, and this is a hardcore witch who will, of course, be demoted back all the way to Standard League when we die. So the goal is to not die. It's gonna be rather simple. We are standing upon the what I understand, the graphically overhauled version of the Twilight Strand. It's all new and shiny. And from what I understand, Lionized Watch should also be looking a bit fancier than we are used to. For this series we are gonna play a summoner. Currently we're just waving our wand and casting some fireballs, but we're gonna stop doing that once we get our hands on some proper skills, and we will be summoning all the things. There will be zombies, there will be skeletons, there will be spectres, there will be raging spirits, there will even be a golem. And eventually, once we defeat Zaro on normal difficulty, we will grab the Beacon of Corruption Ascendancy keystone, which will make our minions explode into a cloud of poison when they die, or when their timer expires, or when in any other way they disappear from the battlefield. And that will have some interesting implications, because we can over summon minions, and once we hit our limit on, for example, the skeletons or the raging spirits, the new summons will replace the old, and the old ones will disappear into a puff of poisonous smoke, poisoning the monsters on the battlefield and helping us clear things faster. And once we hit maps, we're gonna push that even further, and we're gonna be actively using our Spectres, because a Spectre life skills it's based on monster life. And therefore things are gonna, their life is gonna scale even better, and even in maps this strategy will be able to persist. So maybe we should actually pick up the reward. Freezing Pulse, Magma Orb, Tide Trolls, Zombies. Yeah, of course we're gonna go zombies. Zombie all the things. So, keep this one for movement.
Greetings.
And we really don't have a lot. Ooh, movement speed. This is a very lucky find. Means we can move along faster. And everything else is just gonna appear. Yeah, well, we'll continue with the fireball for now. So.
I know that stench. Just like my sisters upon the pyre.
So our limit in the beginning is 3 zombies, and they will be weak.
And I thought I'd be a dead woman by now.
So we are gonna head off into this direction. Deep Wisdom, Lord of the Dead, Grave Intentions. That's gonna be our first goals, just to increase the amount of minions we have and give them a little bit of bite. Early on, minions are gonna be weak. We will be recasting them rather frequently, but doesn't mean we shouldn't try to at least buff them a little bit. So one of the new things in this league will of course be cast while channeling. It's a passive I've been playing around with for a little bit, and it turns out it is rather excellent for summoning minions. So we will be playing with a channeled skill, and at first it's probably gonna be Blight. Later on we're gonna switch over to Wither, because that is also a channel skill now. It actually has the official channeled tag and everything. And while channeling, every 0.45 down to 0.35 seconds, so 2.5 to 3 times per second, we will be casting one of the linked skills. We're gonna attach summon skeletons and summon raging spirits to it, and those skills will nicely alternate. So slightly more than once per second we will be casting each of those spells. So the skeletons in about 5 or 6 casts, or 4, 5, 6 casts, depending a little bit on how high our limit is going to be. We will reach our limit of the amount of skeletons we can have. Oh, and for the raging spirits, their timer is a bit shorter, so that's going to be the bottleneck. So in all likelihood we'll have about 6 or 7 of those up. As I said, our minions are a bit weak. Maybe I shouldn't stand in the fire here. But that's gonna change. So pick up some armor. Let's go first. Sure. In the beginning, most gear really doesn't matter. Slows you down a little bit to pick up the gear. On the other hand, it provides you a little bit of protection. Given the fact that we are playing on the hardcore, we of course don't want to get killed. Chain belts, that's more energy shields. So that's the plan. Have a big swarm of minions. And then channel disposable minions onto the battlefield. Once we got Beacon of Corruption, those clouds will be poison damage over time. Of course, poison damage over time. With Wither, we can actually boost the damage that monsters take, because every stack of Wither gives monsters a tiny debuff that makes them take 7% more increased chaos damage. And the entire poison cloud is chaos, so that works out rather well. And I think with the timing and the duration of a Wither, we can get between 6 and 10 stacks on the monsters. Depends a bit on the casting speed, increased duration, things like that. So that's going to be 40 to 70% increased damage taken. So that's effectively a more modifier on top of all the damage. And I think that's going to be pretty fun. Playtested around a little bit with the build on a level 50, which I have in Standard League, and things worked out okay there. So I'm hoping that the leveling process is going to be doable. But once we pick up some raging spirits and some skeletons, then we have a lot of stuff that we can just throw down and put in the monster's face, and things will generally be fine. In the end game, I'm looking to transition into a Chaos Inoculation build. So we're going to go very heavy on the energy shield. And after we switch to CI, we can ignore chaos damage. Which is going to be nice because, of course, chaos damage is always the bane of energy shield builds. Because we are playing on the hardcore bridge and I'm playing as a SSF, a solo self-found character. It's a solo self-found is a concept that, well, Project PT has been advocating for it rather strongly for a while now. And even set up a website, which I have linked in the description below, to have an unofficial ladder for the solo self-found league. As of the time of recording, the status of the website is slightly delayed. So it will, the ladder will be up, but slightly later. I think there were some issues with APIs or something. But I'll be participating in that, because as you might remember from my earlier videos, I played solo self-found quite a bit in the earlier leagues. And eventually I got into trading, but I do like the playstyle. So I figured I've been going on more heavily on trading and things like that in previous leagues. So let's return to our classic playstate, so to say. The shields. Nice. We can't equip it yet. But let's return to our classic style of play and go solo self-found. That means we can't trade for skill gems or uniques or anything else that would help us along. So it's everything we can find, and that's gonna be it. Which means we will be using the league mechanics No, breaches, they have a certain unique stat that can only drop from them, though I think for my specific build I haven't seen anything that really shouted like, yes, use me. So we'll be skipping that one for now. But things like divination cards, vendor crafting recipes, things like that, they are of course the ways we use to gear up. Having focused the previous league heavily on mapping and just discovering what Path of Exile's endgame is all about, I know that we definitely can't rush into maps, and especially the higher tier maps, without proper preparation. And as such, I will be spending a bit more time than normal just farming areas. In Act 2, most of the Chamber of Sins, the Crypt, actually in Act 1, the Fetid Pool, all the creepy, crawly Necromancer places, they have a chance to drop relevant divination cards for our build. Level 20 minion gems, or no, 20% quality minion gems, 20% quality summon raising spirits specifically as well for somewhere. Things like that. I'll actually pay attention to them and actually use them in order to see if I can use those to improve my build. So, that's gonna be one of the things that I'll be focusing on and learning this specific league. How to make better use of the tools that the game offers you without having to resort to trade. Hello there, Oozback Bloom. Here, have some fireballs. I think you'll like them. They're nice and warm, and it's all icky here. Go turn. Anything useful on that one? It's a higher level than we can use. Okay. That makes things rather easy, and we can just ignore it. Scare Mask, that's better than Iron Hat because energy shields. So we don't really have a lot in terms of currency or anything. On the other hand, we don't really need a lot except for crafting and things like that. So we'll actually be heading into the Fetid Pool just to clear it, get the skill point, and have a small chance of dropping a divination card. There's a, I believe here you can get Death divination card, and you need a bunch of them in order to get a Monstrous Grasp. Hope I'm not mixing my cards here, but there is something useful here, a divination card that's not no, the standard blacksmith and things like that. I believe it was Death. But it's a relevant summoner item, and it is actually one of the few relevant summoner ones that has a chance to drop on normal difficulty. The other ones all dropping in Cruel and Merciless. That's the Crypt and the Catacombs and the Chamber of Sins ones. Those are all for Cruel and Merciless. So once we finish normal, there will be farming. And no, I'll do of course the farming in between episodes, not during the episodes, because that will be rather boring to watch. Ooh, life, some energy shields. Oh, spell damage. Well, we don't really care, but it's better than no shield, so sure, why not? So once we hit a waypoint, we'll go back to town and we'll do a little bit of gem shopping, but no, given that we don't really have a lot of currency, there's not going to be a lot of shopping. So early on, no, getting to establish your currency base a little bit could be slightly annoying, but it generally works out in the end. And at some point you'll have more currency than you know what to do with. Coral Amulet for a little bit of life regen early on, it's useful. There's not a lot of sources of chaos damage, but So if you do get rid of your energy shield, having a little bit of passive energy life regen to boost your life is useful. Means you don't have to drink from your flasks all the time. So Castle Channeling is a higher level gem, so we won't get access to it until I believe Act 3. But that doesn't take away that we want to prepare for it. So we will be picking up a Summon Raging Spears, we will be picking up our Summon Skeletons, but we'll just be casting them by hand. So I think instead of a Castle Channeling, I'll just put in a faster casting, and then we'll just have different choices of what to cast. This is gonna be... Let's see. Oh yeah, we leveled into this one, but it's actually worse than what we already had. So out it goes. And that's the last one. Full clear in one go. That's always nice. Sometimes the lake in the middle is a bit larger and you end up having to backtrack along the inner circle. Here, that is luckily not the case. So we picked up the first of the glyphs. Now we need the other two. So usually you just follow these tiny sneaky rivers and they'll lead you onwards, or they'll lead you astray. Either way, they'll lead you somewhere. Our zombies are getting the snot kicked out of them. Once we get some minion life regeneration going from the skill tree, we will be in a lot better shape. Until then though, it's just recasting a lot of zombies. And we don't even get fancy chaos clouds for them in return, so you literally get the worst of all worlds. Another chain belt, might be a better one. Oh, let's not pick that one up. This is indeed a better one. Good. Early on, though, 10 energy shields, it's a pretty big boost in terms of percentage. And we have all three of them, so we can now look for the exit. Also, I actually forgot to go back to town in order to pick up my Quicksilver flask, which I probably should have done. On the other hand, oh, it's not like we are running quickly and just massacring the enemies. We are a more relaxed build. And as such, it doesn't really matter all that much. It's only for finding the next fight where it's gonna be helpful. Until then, oh, we're taking things quiet. Hello, goodbye. So it would be nice if we managed to find at least a single breach before the end of the episode. From what I understand, the design goal was that you would find one every 10 or so minutes. So we'll see when they start showing up and how the experience is gonna be. Ooh, wow, that's a very lucky drop. We get a Quicksilver flask from a drop. So what I remember from the previous leaks is that most of the time we did get access, or you got your first encounter with the breach or with the leak specific mechanic inside of the mudflats. Turns out this time we haven't encountered one, so we'll see about the next one. Posts on Reddit suggest that the breaches are actually pretty darn hard. So, well, the longer it takes us to encounter one, the better prepared we will be. Because summoners, especially early on, they're a bit slow to get started, but once they get started, they keep going. Let's see, Frostbomb, nope, Orb Storm, Summon Raging Spirits, that's an easy one.
A Necromancer?
Necromancer, yes, that's me. So, we'll of course, my usual habit is just picking up a lot of chromatic items. This is technically a better one than what we currently have, so we'll stick to it. And might as well ID these rares in order to get Orb of Alteration. Okay, and of course we have a vendor recipe done. Yes, build ourselves a chromatic orb and get another Quicksilver flask. That way we have 2 of them. I do like my Quicksilvers. Let's see, chain belt, maybe for crafting or something. We'll see. And then there should be a currency tab in here somewhere. Ah yes, it's usually the last one. But we'll drag it all the way to the front. And at least we have a nice place to store our currency. So in between episodes I'll probably set up my stash a little bit. For now this is good enough. Let's see, zombies go out, new wand goes in. Summon Raging Spirit is going to be our active spell. That means Fireball is no longer strictly required. I'll just put it on weapon switch for now, in case we do decide we need it. Well, actually, it's not like we're actually using it, right? So I might as well just put it in offhand or something. So we will be casting Raging Spirits as our active skill. We'll have Fireball as our backup. And then that's going to be... It's Nessa. What do you have for sale? Blight, Crossbolt, Cold Snap, Animate, some Raging. Blight, useful, yes, no. Well, if we're actively casting things, then we don't need Blight. I don't think we'll ever actually need Blight. So, let's see if we can progress a little bit further. I would like to get a breach in this first episode. I hope they don't start spawning until much later, because that way we'll have a too long episode. But look at these happy skulls just happily murdering all these things. And then once we get a corpse we can get ourselves more zombies. Whee! And yes, I really am enjoying myself with all these little happy skulls. Monsters are less amused, but hey, that's their problem. It's also a bit of a mana hog. I might be overdoing it here a little bit, but well, we got a mana flask. It is there to be used. Oh, and I see a hand. And the logo for the breach is a hand, so let's see if this is doable or not, or if this was a really, really silly mistake. Let's open up the breach. Ooh, Xuf's loyal, so the extra fire damage. It's that watches. It that watches of anger. Oh, oh. It's supposed to close. Poof, gone. And then afterwards there might be loot or there might not be extra loot. I believe there might also be certain breach related strongboxes that if you're not in a breach you can spot a glimmer of it. And then while you're actually in the breach you can open it. So, well, I have to keep an eye out for anything that looks out of the ordinary. And deal with it. Oh, this is the staircase that leads outside. And I see one of Merveil's daughters. So let's say hello to the princess. And after that we're gonna go outside, grab the ledge waypoint and call it an episode. Because I think we have, well, completed some of the goals I had set for myself for the first episode. I wanted to see a breach and I wanted to get started. And both have now been fulfilled. And this one is slightly better than what we have. So, for also Deep Wisdom. Bit more mana, bit more energy shield. It's good. So if we're gonna be rather mana hungry, casting those Raging Spirits will need to have a good look at our mana. Oh, the episode just got extended because there is Hakuna Matata. We will find your spirit. I wonder if a breach could spawn inside of one of these master mission areas. Would be interesting if you have a timed run and then you also have a breach inside. Interesting choices between completing it on time or getting out. So we summon some of our zombies to get full health. Superior Flask, that's better than a not superior flask, of course. Because it recharges slightly more mana and slightly more is good enough for me. So these mines are probably one of the easier totem things to deal with, since they really have a long charge up time. Of course, that also means that as a player you feel compelled to just run through them, and that is where the danger lies. Oh, this was a dead end. Krusty the Crustacean. And summon more skeletons. So Raging Spirits got buffed from what I understand. The stack limit got reduced from 50 to 20. But especially early on you're not gonna summon 50 of the things anyway, but the damage did get adjusted to compensate. So that means that the 10 we have now should be just about as effective as the 25 yeah, 25 of the old ones. So that seems reasonable. Let's see, let's not get hit. We got minions for that. Blah. You. Blah. If you teleport on top of me, I'll just walk away and then send skulls after you. Unique goat horn and a spirit for us. From the looks of it, nothing scary happened. I probably should have waited a little bit. What's useful about this? Extra damage to spells, more spell damage, fire damage. Oh, the resists are useful actually. Interesting thing, of course, for us is that the weapon really doesn't matter because we're not using it in any way, shape, or form, and everything just scales off of a minion damage and minion life eventually. So going for wands, it was useful while we had the fireball as an active skill, but currently it doesn't really matter. What matters is casting speed, and well, it is more likely to appear on caster weapons. So that's going to be wands, it's going to be daggers, that's going to be scepters. It's not strictly required to use those. So being a witch, being a rather pure witch actually, we will be going for energy shield armor mostly. We will be mostly using blue gems. So going for wands as our weapon is probably the most beneficial as well, because they only require intelligence and we will be picking up enough intelligence as we go. Strength and dexterity are things that we don't really need for anything. In the theory craft, in the skill tree, which is as always linked in the description below. There's actually a mini build guide in the description below, as I always tend to do. I did account for picking up one of the 30 strength and one of the 30 dex nodes, as well as the can't be stunned nodes over here with some strength and dex, just to get a little bit of the stats. But it's not strictly required. So first we'll just go Lord of the Dead, increase the amount of minions we have. And then afterwards We'll work a little bit more on defenses, but early on, especially Act 1, you don't really need a lot of defenses. You should not be killing yourself in Act 1, at least not as an experienced player, so if I manage to kill myself in Act 1, then that's gonna be rather shameful. Because then I was doing something really, really stupid. Or, of course, my character got eaten by a lag monster, but, well, that hardly ever happens. Just look at all those happy skulls. So the funny thing is, we have 2 Quicksilver flasks, and I don't think I've actually taken a sip yet. So, let's do that. Just to have a taste of it. The thing is, no, we have a lot of minions, and the minions need to be in their face. I don't need to be in their face, and as such, I don't really have a strong need to run fast a lot. Eventually we'll get a flame dash and put that on our right mouse button, so we can just dash about, and that's gonna be generally fine. So one of the interesting bits about the skeletons or the summon raising spirits is that they seem to be a bit faster than zombies. And of course I'm actively casting them, so by the time the zombies manage to get to the first wave of enemies, the skulls are already happily biting their legs off. And that's perfectly fine. The skulls are basically a spell in summon form. With a slightly larger mana pool, we do seem to be slightly more mana stable. So the little bonus to regen and just the sheer size of the pool did help. We have reached the ledge waypoint. We skipped the big cave crustacean, so I'll actually run that one in between episodes because it's not overly important for the progress. And as I mentioned before, I will be just doing some farming in between episodes and stuff like that in order to just build up some wealth, build up some gear, find some divination cards, things like that, because we can't trade for anything, and most of the time, no, before major bosses I would do a checkup of all my gear and see if I could trade for anything in order to shore up some resistance weaknesses and things like that, and we don't have that luxury right now. But for now, I'm gonna thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the concept of the build, and I hope that together we shall see how things turn out. But for now, I'm gonna thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye.